Consulting Services back with Steve Bonacontri. Today I'm going to show you how to build a registration form using Bootstrap, HTML5, and Angular. That will be followed by the action or the web service used using Node.js, which persists the data into Mongo. So first, let me show you what we have here. We have an Angular application. It's a single page application. It it has an ng app defined. It has a main controller on the body tag, and I have an ng view, and I'm using the router. So each action that I click on, I actually instantiate some scope for the center view, and I have a template I'm rendering in the center view. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the registration tag. Um, so let me get to it and show you a little bit about what's going on here. First, I have a registration form. Okay, well, first let me show you a little bit about how I architected the application. This was designed using the Angular Seed application, and basically what we have is each site area modeled as its own Angular module. So if I look at the registration directory, I have an HTML template, which has the HTML, and I have a Angular module, which defines a registration module, which depends on the ng router, and it configures the router so when I click on the register action, the registration controller gets invoked, and scope is created for that controller, and the registration.html template gets compiled and viewed, and the data from the controller is dynamically bound to the template. Okay, so so that's how the module is defined, and the controller is defined right here, and I also defined this client value because I was doing some experimenting. But let's go back to the registration template. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a HTML5 Bootstrap Angular driven template. I have certain tags here which are styled using Bootstrap, and I've created my form using Bootstrap tags, and I have AngularJS directives in the application as well. Okay, so let's just take a look at the form real quick. Okay, so the registration form says, okay, I got a name, I got a form, here's a class form horizontal. I'm using some Bootstrap attributes here. I have a form group I define in Bootstrap, and then I have these class attributes which say, well, this is a form, Bootstrap wants to use 12 columns, and this attribute here says, okay, for an iPhone, use 4 columns with this element. For an iPad, use 4 columns for this element. For a large desktop, use 4 columns for this element. The bottom line is it's got 12 columns, and I'm showing a label, a field, whatever, and I'm breaking it up into sections of 4, although it's 12 columns. Okay, so let's just take a look at the input. Okay, so what I have is an input username. All my form field names in my application map the data to a user object attribute. So in this case, I'm mapping it to user name. I'm defining a minimum length, a maximum length. So there's my validation. I have a class form control. I'm telling Bootstrap, do what you do with this form input field, format it nicely, make sure that you remember what I typed in, whatever Bootstrap does behind the scenes. And I'm also defining it to be required in Angular. So most of the attributes do that, and my form is not much really to my form. I just show a bunch of attributes. But when I do have a submit button at the bottom of the page that says save, I actually invoke a register user function out of my controller scope, and I pass in the user object into that scope. So loosely speaking, it's not rocket science. Oops, what happened? It's not rocket science. The bottom line is I have a form here. I'm going to uh, uh, I'm going to show. This is another attribute I use of Bootstrap. I'm going to show my password, and now Bootstrap seemed to remember everything I typed in here. So I'm just going to just copy some things here, and I'm gonna let me just make sure my username is Steve123, so I could make sure. Okay, now what else? Um, Let me just save this. So here I'm going to invoke the action on the controller save. And something didn't work. So I'm going to go back to my cloud here, and something tells me that I did not start my server. Okay, I got that running on the cloud. Let me go back here and save this. And now I am registered successfully. Okay, so now let me just go make sure that my data got persisted. I'm going to go back to the cloud. Let me just kill this temporarily. I could run forever on that or put that in the background process, but I like killing it so I have a better understanding. Oh, first of all, let's look at the output. The server was up, and here I'm in the register post. I show the username, the password, the salt value, and I finish registering the user. Now, you shouldn't log the password, of course, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Let me now take a look to see whether my data went into my MongoDB. Where am I? Okay. I think I ran out of time. Nope, I didn't. Okay, so let's just quickly finish. Okay, so let me invoke Mongo. Show DBs. Use SOACS. That's my database. Okay, DB dot. Okay, let's do this. Show collections. User profile. DB dot user profile dot find, and I'm going to show that really pretty. And here I have my registered user. It's in my collection. And that's really all I wanted to show you.